Hey guys, it's the War Hipster here. Welcome to another painting tutorial. Today we're painting the Necron Overlord from the starter kits in the Indomitus box set. We're going to be painting him in the color scheme of the Szarekhan Dynasty. Now, as with all of these Szarekhan Dynasty paint schemes, we're going to be starting off by painting the black. And there's two different types of black. We've got smooth black and we've got the industrial black. Now the smooth clean black, well I should say, is the first color that we're going to start with, and this is Terradon Turquoise. And this might seem a bit weird, but this Terradon Turquoise acts as our pre-shade, and it also acts as our first edge highlight. So what we want to do is we want to pick out all the areas that we want to be this clean, smooth black color. And this is areas like the kind of soft grip on the spear, like this, his inner kind of body, like in there, and the spinal column. We're going to do the whole spinal column with Terradon Turquoise, and the various little kind of like cartouches here on the spear and here on his chest. So you want to go around doing all of this, and then we will come back. And with that Terradon Turquoise applied to all those details, we want to be the smooth clean black. We're now going to take some thinned down Iron Warriors. And what we're going to do this on is all the areas that we want to be the kind of industrial black, which is areas such as the joints in his legs and in his arms, and on his feet and his fingers of his hand, all those areas like that. And in addition, we're going to use this Iron Warriors to colour in all of the silver details. This is areas like his pauldrons and the tachyon arrow and the various working areas of the weapon, so like these vents here, like that. So we're going to go around with this Iron Warriors, and then we're going to come back. And with all of that Iron Warriors and Terradon Turquoise applied, it's now time to add the Black Templar. Now we're going to do this in two different ways. Now the first way is over the Terradon Turquoise. What we want to do is we want to take a small amount of this Black Templar, and we want to paint this Black Templar over the flat of the panel, like this, just avoiding the edge. Like that. So you want to go really steady. And what this does is it establishes our first edge highlight for us. So I'll demonstrate it again on the next rung down. And what we do is, again, just on the flat of the panel, just want to add this Black Templar, like this. And we want to do that over all of those Terradon Turquoise areas. So like I said, we're just avoiding that edge so that we establish our first edge highlight. Whereas on all the bits that we want to be industrial black, we want to, like areas like the joints, we just want to take this Black Templar and coat it all over, like this. And with all that Black Templar applied, it's now time to do the armor. So the color that we're going to be using is Runelord Brass. And what we want to do is we just want to start slapping this Runelord Brass all over the armor plates, like this. Don't worry too much about doing this top bit here and this long strings and the kind of headdress bit there. We just want to leave those for now. But for the rest of it, we want to get this Runelord Brass all over, like this. And with all of that Runelord Brass applied, we're now going to get some thinned down Retributor Armour. And we're going to paint this all over the hanging trails down the front, his headdress, and the runes up here. And with that Retributor Armour applied, we now want to take some thinned down Sycorax Bronze. And we want to use this in two different ways. So first way is we're going to just brighten up the outside areas of each of the armor panels that we did with the Runelord Brass, like this. This is just to create a little bit of variation in the armor for when we shade it, like this. So just want to get good even coverage of this, just avoiding any recesses as well, So if you do it here on the chest, we just want to get this area, but we don't want to get any on that inside the vent, as it were. Same again on this side. Like that. And then we want to do some stuff on the legs as well. So we want to like pick out that circle and this top part here, but leaves that bottom part. Pick up that circle as well. Like this. Like I said, we're just making it really shiny in certain places. As you can see, there's a difference already in that leg to that leg. So we're doing it that way. The other way that we're going to do is we're going to take the little bit of Sycorax Bronze and we're just going to pick out the little connectors in that Retributor Armour. Like this. And with that Sycorax Bronze applied, we've now got some really shiny looking armour, which is really cool. So the next thing we're going to do is, just before we shade it, it's going to do a similar process again on the pauldrons up here, but with some thinned down iron hand steel. What we want to do is we just want to pick out the flats of the panels with this iron hand steel, like this. Just avoiding any battle damage or any of the recesses. Like this. And with all of that done, it's now time to apply some shading to the miniature. Now the first colour we're going to do is we're going to make a mix of 6 parts contrast medium, 1 part Aggaros Dunes and 1 part Wyldwood. I'm going to use this all over the Runelord Brass and Sycorax Bronze armour areas. Like this. And with that contrast medium Aggaros Dunes and Wyldwood mix applied, you can see we've got this lovely weathered bronze armour. So the next thing we're going to do in terms of shading is we're going to use some of the Cryptek Armourshade gloss, and we're going to use this on all of that Retributor armour, like this. Now this shade is perfect for doing these kind of recessed details to get them really nice and shiny. And it's exactly what you want from a Necron Overlord, for him to have some super bling. So you want to use it all over these areas, over the rune panels, those kind of trailing bits, and his headdress. And with that Cryptek Armourshade gloss applied, you can see we've got these two lovely, distinct, shiny different metals going on across his armour. Now, all that's left to do is to shade all of that silver details. So what we're going to do is we're going to use some Basilicanum Grey for this. And we're going to do this in 2 different ways. One, on all of the kind of metallic details such as these, excluding the pauldron and the tachyon arrow, we just want to get this Basilicanum Grey all over like this, just to really darken it down and make sure that we work that Basilicanum Grey into those recesses. Like this. Give it some really nice dark shading, like that. Just going to quickly do the rest of this little gadget here. Like that. So you want to go all over with those details, whereas on the tachyon arrow and the pauldrons, it's slightly easier to show you up here on the pauldrons, is what we want to do is we want to just kind of do a really sort of, it doesn't have to be 100% precise, but you kind of want to just do a recess shade like this, because we want these pauldrons to be nice and bright. Now it doesn't have to be 100% accurate, because we are going to add some shading, some highlights I should say. And with that Basilicanum Grey added to that silver, as you can see, he's now starting to look awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some highlights. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do this tabard in here, this little bit down here. Now, across all of the Necrons, it's always a slightly worn out type of vibe. So you can see here on the Scorpec Lord, it looks like a really kind of worn out bronzy silver type thing. So in order to do this, what we want to do is we want to take our dry brush and we want to take some iron hand steel on the brush like this, and then on a bit of tissue paper, rather than doing this to work it in, we want to stipple it like this, working it into the bristles until we get the type of thing that we want, which is like that. So it looks quite sparse. And then on here, we want to just very carefully start stippling this all over just the tabard. Like this. And with that stipple effect applied to that tabard, we're now going to use some Stormhost Silver. And we're going to use this to edge highlight, just add a little bit of definition to each of those edges on the tabard. Like that. You can see it just makes it look razor sharp. But we're also going to use this Stormhost Silver to highlight the shoulder pads. Like this. And with all of that Stormhost Silver applied, you can see we've got this really lovely, bright, shiny shoulder pads. I've also done the same thing to the Tachyon arrow, just to give it a little bit more depth, just on the top part. So the bottom part I haven't highlighted just yet. So next up, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all of the gold and all of the brass. And we're going to be using Canoptek Alloy for this. And what we want to do is we just want to pick out all of the edges with this paint. And this is the bit that probably takes the longest because that's the most. There's the most of this color. It's the predominant color, I should say. So you just want to take your time doing this. And you also want to use this Canoptek Alloy to pick out the rune on his chest and the 2 runes on the staff, but not the one on the forehead just yet. That one's going to be a different color. And with all that Canoptek Alloy applied, you can see the model's taken a massive leap forward and he's starting to look awesome. Well, he was already looking awesome, but now he's looking even more awesome. So what we're going to do now is we're going to highlight all of that industrial black that we did right at the beginning and all of that silver with some iron hand steel. And we only need to do a couple of the bits of silver because we've already done the main part, which is the pauldrons. So we just need to pick out everything that remains with this iron hand steel. And as I say, we're also including all of that industrial black, so areas like those knee joints. And with that Iron Warriors all applied, the metallics are now all completely highlighted. And he looks ace. So what we're going to do now is we're going to focus on all the blades. So these are going to be the glowing kind of faded blended greens that you see on the box art. And we've got the blade here, we've got this little bit here as well, we've got this bit under here, and we've got the Tachyon arrow head just down here. These are all going to be the same kind of method. So the color that we're going to use first is Warp Lightning. And what you want to do is you want to get a fairly healthy amount of this on your brush, and you just want to, in as few brush strokes as possible, draw basically this contrast paint all the way down. So this one's a little bit more tricky than some of the other ones because it's not as segmented, but what you can do is you can try and go from a recess to a recess. So we've actually got too much paint on our brush here, so we just want to take a little bit of that off, and what we're going to do is make contact with the model inside the recess and then just pull it down in one big broad brush stroke like that. We want to keep doing this process until we've got the whole of the blades covered. It's a little bit easier on the other ones because they're really small. But this one's the main one that we want to focus on. And next up, we're going to once again use Warp Lightning Green, but we're going to use it slightly differently. This time we're going to add where we want our shade to be. So we want it to be around here on the top blade, around here on the bottom part of the blade, and across the middle here. Similarly on this little bit, we want it to kind of be towards the base of the staff, and on the blade down here we want to do essentially this section down here, and then the tachyon blade arrow we want to just do the inside part of the arrow itself. So what we do is we take a small amount of warp lightning green this time, not very much at all, and we just pick our place to start. So I'm going to start around about here, and we're once again just going to make contact with the model, and we're just going to pull it down in one big broad brush stroke like that. And we just want to neaten it up a little bit. Just be very gentle with the paint. As you do it. And with that second brush stroke of warp lightning applied, we've now got the areas that we're going to work in. So the color that we're going to use next is some Ork Flesh, and we don't want to use very much of this at all. We just want to use a little bit. And what we want to do is we want to kind of do the same thing again, but we want to just kind of leave a little bit of that warp lightning showing through. But we want to start where we want the blade to be the darkest. So in the case of the bottom part, we want to start down here. We want to make contact with the model. We just want to pull it up like that. We can use a little bit more. And once again, make contact and pull it up like that. And next up, with that Ork Flesh applied, we're now going to create a roughly 4 parts contrast medium to 1 part Dark Angel's green mix. And we're going to take a small amount of this on our brush, and then we're going to just apply this to the darkest areas of the shading that we want. So in this case, on the bottom blade, we just want to apply this Dark Angel's green like this to the bottom of the blade, like that. And then what you do is you can wash your brush off, and then just with no paint on it at all, just use a clean brush like this to just blend where those colors meet, just to smooth out that transition. So once again, take a small amount of this on our brush, a little bit more than that. And then at the top here, I'm going to make contact with the model and then pull it down to about there, like that. Wash the brush and then use a clean brush to just feather out like this. And with that Dark Angel's green mix applied to all of those blades, you can see we've got this really gorgeous transition going on. So what we're going to do next is we're going to highlight those blades using some thinned down Ulthuan Grey. And what we want to do is we just want to hit all of the sharp edges on all of the blades with this colour. Just being really careful not to get this all over the place like this. And with those Ulthuan Grey highlights applied, the blade is very nearly finished. We do have one more thing we're going to do to it, but we're not going to do it just yet, because what we're going to do is we're going to use some Apothecary White, and this is just for his central part of his head. And the reason for this is that we're going to be using some Corax White to highlight this, but seeing as we're going to have made a Corax White, thinned down some Corax White to highlight this, we might as well use that to clear out all of the shiny glowy bulbs as well, such as these ones and these ones, and then we can use the Tesseract Glow all at once to do all of the stuff we need to do the Tesseract Glow with. So we just want to make sure that we've got this Apothecary White all over this central part of his head, and then we'll come back. And once that Apothecary White is dry, I'm going to use some Corax White. And this is to fill in all of the orbs and also to highlight that rune on his head. So what we want to do is just take a little bit of this on our brush, and we'll start coating this Corax White all over these areas. Like that. And with that Corax White applied, we're now going to finish off the blade and all of those orbs. And the paint we're going to be using is Tesseract Glow. And what we're going to do is going to use it in two ways. On the highlights on the blade, what we want to do is we want to use a small amount, and we just want to basically go over the highlights that we've already done with the Tesseract Glow like this. So it's effectively a second edge highlight, but using the Tesseract Glow. And what this does is it just makes those highlights, well, glow. It's difficult to talk about it without saying the word glow 1,000 times. Does glow sound weird yet? Anyway, we want to go over all of our highlights so that we've done on all the blades with the Tesseract Glow like this. In addition, what we want to do is we want to just do it down here as well. On the Tesseract, on the, Tachyon arrow. Anyway, additionally with the Tesseract Glow, what we want to do is we want to go over all of those orbs that we coloured in with the Corax White like this. And on the Tachyon arrow, just want to fill in those recesses as well. And with that Tesseract Glow applied to those highlights and to those glowing orbs, we're very, 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 very nearly finished. So all that's left to do is all the smooth cables, and the colour we're going to first use is Dark Angel's Green. What we'll do is take a sort of small amount, particularly for in here. We just want to, in as few brush strokes as possible, just get a nice smooth coat of this Dark Angel's Green all over these cables. And with that Dark Angel's Green applied, we want to take a small amount of Moot Green, and we want to use this to add a small highlight going down the middle of each of these pipes. And with that Moot Green applied to all of those cables, we're going to finish off painting the model by using a small amount of Fenrisian Grey to apply a small spot highlight to the corners of each of those smooth black areas that we painted right at the beginning. Terradon Turquoise and the Black Templar. And with that done, all that's left to do is finish off his base. Now I'm going to be basing him in the same style as the rest of the Necrons I've done from Indomitus, and so I'm not going to film it this time around, but if you'd like to see how I do it, you can always check out the How to Paint Necron Warriors Contrast Plus tutorial, or you can check out the How to Paint the Canoptek Reanimator, or indeed How to Paint Illuminor Xerath, as the recipe is exactly the same. And with his base complete, the Necron Overlord is now ready to lead the legions of the Szarekhan Dynasty to wreak death and destruction across the universe. Thank you so much for watching this one. I really enjoyed painting him. He is just, I think he's probably my favourite Necron model from the new range. I think so. I think he just exudes so much authority. It's just brilliant miniature. Anyway, as I say, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. It really is appreciated. And I will see you very soon in the next one.